Michelangelo said, teaches us that a work of art lives forever, whereas the artist's time is measured. The creator will go, but his work survives. That is why, to escape death, I attempt to bind my life to my work. This is the story of his life and of the work that made him immortal. On the low rolling slopes of the Florentine countryside is the small, peaceful hamlet of Caprese. Here, Michelangelo Buonarroti was born on the 6th of March, 1475. The infant was sent to the family farm in Tuscany. It was a region of fertile fields and hillsides rich with marble. And in the stonecutter's household where he was raised, the dominant sound was the ring of the hammer and chisel. At the foot of these quarries lay Florence, where the air was filled with the confident laughter that had shaken down the gloomy vaults of the Middle Ages. Man was proud, self-sufficient, and the powerful Medicis rode the crest of this surging spirit of rebirth. Under Lorenzo, Florence was becoming the queen city of the Renaissance. But the Pazzis, a rival family of nobles, were determined to set their own seal upon the city. And with highly placed friends in the papal court, they plotted to destroy Lorenzo and his brother, Giuliano. The plot was simple and daring. Sunday morning, the Medici brothers arrive at the cathedral for solemn mass. Cautious and wary by nature, they have no fear in the house of God. This is the haven of purity, piety, the weak and the meek. The church is the refuge of
assassins.
Giuliano is struck down. Lorenzo is wounded, but with drawn sword, he fights his way back to the sacristy, seeking shelter behind its stout doors. The city hall is under attack. Other Pazzi forces are inciting the masses to revolt, but the infamy of their deeds spreads through Florence. The outraged people turn against the conspirators. The conspiracy is smashed, and its leaders swiftly punished. The remnants of the Pazzi band were driven from the city, and the plot to unseat the Medicis left Florence more securely than ever before in the iron grasp of Lorenzo. A brilliant leader of men, a poet, scholar, artist, and thinker, he was the Renaissance prince. He surrounded himself with the most gifted men of his time and ushered in the golden age of Florence. To this city of splendor, young Michelangelo was brought by his father, who had plans for him.
You're 13 years old and as ignorant as a stonecutter. You must go to school and study the classics, the humanities, discipline and manners, prerequisites for a young gentleman.
The lad was not interested in becoming a gentleman. The streets of the city enchanted him. The rich stores of art in the churches dazzled him. On all sides were the works of the great masters of Italy. The boy was filled with awe. How wonderful it must be to do something like this. Reluctantly, the father apprenticed him to the celebrated painter, Domenico Ghirlandaio. Working with his master on the Birth of the Virgin, Michelangelo learned the art of fresco, which was to serve him well later on. In the fashion of his time, Ghirlandaio placed his religious themes in middle-class Florentine homes and clothed his figures with the lavish costumes of his own period. But Michelangelo also studied other masters. Giotto, though seemingly old-fashioned to the boy, held him with his dramatic force. Masaccio, more modern, gave his figures natural movement and weight in space. Michelangelo works. He studies, copying, sketching. He learns. He grows confident, even arrogant. He criticizes a fellow apprentice. Insults follow, and then a fist fight. Michelangelo's nose is broken. He who is so sensitive to physical beauty is himself marked with ugliness for life. But his confidence was unshaken, and with good reason. He was invited to study at Lorenzo's Academy of Sculpture. His work soon attracted his patron's practiced eye, and the young man was taken into the Medici household, where all the blessings of princely favor were heaped upon him.
I remember that day Lorenzo conducted me through his palace. First, he showed me his treasures of beauty and fine craftsmanship. Then the Primavera by Botticelli. And the Gozzoli frescoes. All the gaiety and richness of Florence crowded into the walls of that room. Il Magnifico proudly identified himself on horseback and the other members of that illustrious family. Gozzoli signed his fresco with a portrait of himself amongst a group of citizenry. In my youth, I was dazzled by the magnificence of that palace. Lorenzo's exquisite taste was reflected in every salon, every courtyard. On the sculpture of Donatello, we lingered. His David was considered the first great nude since the days of ancient Rome. And we paused on the work of Verrocchio. Lorenzo requested something new, and I was determined to repay his kind patronage.
At 17, he completed his first major work, The Battle of the Centaurs. Even at this early age, such forceful expression of explosive emotions, the fierce spirit of a youth maturing in the proud glow of the Renaissance. He was, in truth, a disciple of Lorenzo the Magnificent. But the proud world which the Renaissance glorified suddenly collapsed at its center. Lorenzo died. The Medici name lost its magic. His enemies, the church, rose swiftly to the attack, denouncing the arrogance and vanity which Lorenzo symbolized. Timid and insecure, Michelangelo was frightened by the turmoil in Florence. A sense of impending disaster made him flee to Bologna. He arrived in that strange city without money or references. But some fame had preceded him, and he soon secured a commission. He carved an angel, gravely watching over the remains of St. Dominic. The beauty of the statue was admired, but the Bolognese sculptors were openly jealous of their rival. So Michelangelo moved on to Rome. Rome was rediscovering its great past. Remnants of antiquity were being unearthed, examined, and pieced together to recreate a picture of the empire. For the young Michelangelo, the imperial majesty of ancient Rome was everywhere in evidence. He marveled at the heroic proportions of the Forum, created by Augustus, founder of the Roman Empire. The lofty triumphal arches built in honor of demigods, one to Emperor Constantine, another to Emperor Titus. Colosseum, which the Romans erected for their barbarous spectacles. Castel Sant'Angelo, tomb of the Emperor Adrian. Just as the Florentine frescoes had excited his imagination, so these vivid remains of pagan glory open new vistas to him. The impact of the Roman past was reflected in the first work he did in Rome. The Greek god of wine, Bacchus. To Renaissance realism, he added the pagan idea of man rooted in nature. A roguish drunk with engaging charm, but the body ripe as the grapes at harvest time. Pagan works of art, like the Bacchus and the spirit they embodied, came under violent attack. In Florence, the storm had long been brewing. Its center was the convent of San Marco. In the silence of its gardens, an austere monk brooded bitterly on this pagan insolence. From his quiet cell, he lashed out at the pleasure-loving Florentines. He accused the Renaissance realists of undermining Christian faith. People began to listen to the monk. His name, Savonarola.
Penitenza! Penitenza! Se noi Dio nella sua rabbia vi abbatte senza mercede. Without mercy. Florence! Oh, Florence! This is the last warning the Lord sends to you. Sweep out your house with a broom of iron and fire, or you will hasten to perdition.
Florence trembles. People weep with shame and fear. A wave of religious terror sweeps through the city. Its people are caught in the grip of consuming repentance. They respond fervently. Books and paintings, jewels and luxuries, into the purifying flames, all the symbols of worldly pleasure. The frenzy mounts, sweeping Savonarola along with it.
You too, princes of the church, do penance. Rome! How can it be that God lets you remain on the face of the earth? Everything can be bought there for the price of gold. Souls as well as bodies. People of Florence, march on Rome and deliver my curse upon her.
Rome replies. The Pope pronounces a major excommunication upon Savonarola, and the thundering prophet of doom is silenced. His own followers turn against him, torture him, and sentence him to death. Ascension Day. The people of Florence gather in the piazza. They are frightened, afraid of themselves, afraid of the deed they are about to commit. Savonarola must hang, his remains to be destroyed by flame. The pyre is ready. The people wait. The monk of San Marco is silenced forever, but his dire warnings will be heard again. Remorseful, the people of Florence inscribe a plaque to Savonarola. His single hope was to save their souls, and he paid for his zeal with his life. In Rome, Michelangelo followed the tragic events intensely. As a youth, he too had heard the words of Savonarola, and a spirit of compassion moved him. It was reflected in the statue he was completing at the time. Placed in the Cathedral of St. Peter, the work was mistaken for that of another artist. Under the cover of darkness, the indignant Michelangelo slipped into the chapel with hammer and chisel.
I, Michelangelo Buonarroti of Florence, made this.
It was the only work that he ever signed, his first Pietà. The mood is no longer that of his Bacchus. It is one of an enveloping sadness and wonder. The Virgin laments the divine child. Florence was at peace once more, and Michelangelo decided to go home. Here he learned of a challenging civic project. The cathedral owned an enormous block of marble which had revealed a deep flaw. No sculptor thought it could be salvaged. No sculptor except Michelangelo. Taking up the challenge of the 19-foot block, he locked himself away in the workyard behind the cathedral and hammered and chiseled in secrecy. 4 years he labored, and Florence echoed with rumors.
Is it a colossus?
It's a giant.
Finally, it was finished, and the secret was out. In a holiday mood, the citizens of Florence awaited its unveiling. They watched as walls were torn down to let the huge figure pass through the narrow streets. They waited with growing excitement as scores of men worked to place the Colossus on its base. The statue exalted all that the Florentines of the Renaissance stood for: pride of youth, pride of strength, pride of intellect. It was David. With slingshot and stone in hand, he stands poised to defend his people. As David towered over Florence, so Michelangelo now loomed head and shoulders over the other sculptors of his day. He was a public hero. The city voted him a house and studio, and to it came an endless stream of wealthy patrons. For the banker Pitti, he made the Bargello Madonna. His technique was sure, his mood calm. In the stone, he finds a harmony between the tender gravity of the Virgin and the exuberance of the child. The mood is sustained in the Madonna Taddei, with greater solemnity in the Bruges Madonna. In his painting of the Holy Family, the Virgin is robust. The child an infant hero. Figures as vigorous as a family of stonecutters. He also did an Apollo and a Christ with the cross. At this time, the city fathers of Florence voted to beautify the Palazzo della Signoria by commissioning 2 historical murals for its great hall. One of them was entrusted to the undisputed master of the day, Leonardo da Vinci. The other to Michelangelo, 25 years his junior. Leonardo conceived a tremendous battle scene, but he never finished it. All that remains of his work is a copy made by the Flemish master Rubens. Of Michelangelo's efforts, even less remains, a student's inferior copy of his drawings. But those who saw the actual sketches were greatly impressed. And everyone in Florence took sides in this contest of titans. Michelangelo also abandoned his project. A more important patron demanded his services. The mighty Pope Julius summoned him to the Vatican. A man of imperial ambitions, Julius II wished a colossal monument built for his tomb. The artist set to work.
Here are the plans, Your Holiness.
Will it be truly magnificent, my son?
That depends upon your wishes, Holy Father.
Then spare no effort. Lose not a moment. We wish to see the completed tomb within our own lifetime.
He roamed the mountains of Carrara, selecting the marble for the tomb. His creative genius was fired by the boundless possibilities of the project. To fulfill his exalted visions, only a mountain would do. He even conceived the idea of carving a colossus out of a mountain top. For 8 long months, he lived in this feverish state. Filled with excitement, he returned to Rome. But the Pope was occupied with other matters. He could not receive Michelangelo and kept putting him off. Awaiting the pleasure of His Holiness, the sculptor spent restless days examining the excavations of antiquity. Each day there are new discoveries. A startling find is reported. In the ruins of the Palace of Titus, the workmen have unearthed an ancient statue made more than 1,500 years earlier. It tells the story of a Trojan priest and his 2 sons who are punished for defying the goddess Athena. It is the legendary Laocoon. The theme of anguish influenced Michelangelo's dying slave.